Welcome again. I'm Keith Bunt. I'm the pastor at New Life Christian Fellowship. Welcome to the last in the series on pottery. You know, there is always something interesting. At least I found when I was learning pottery from my friend Ron Corenda. Found it very soothing and enjoyable just to watch him throw pots. Maybe it's the process is nice and quiet. Thing that I've often pondered as we have considered that God is the potter and we are the clay. It's that word that the prophet Isaiah has. Understanding that in verse 16 he says, how foolish can we be? Understand, he's the potter. He's greater than the clay. And should the created thing say of the one that made it, you didn't make me. It just happened. Does the jar ever say to the potter, you who made me is stupid? No. The question we always ask ourselves, what am I made for? Why am I here? People in the church ask, so where do I belong? What's my gift? I don't feel like I belong. All those words that we say. And people even in families say, wonder, I don't feel like I belong. I'm so different. They're all so different. They're all made from clay. Some of them made from the same lump of clay. And we forget that we're not made to be exactly alike. What are you made for? I'm not made to criticize the one who made me. I'm not made to criticize the Lord. I'm not even made to criticize my parents. I mean, I like certain things, but I'm not made to criticize. I'm made for a purpose. What's your purpose? What has God built you up into? As we look at the whole process of being formed, consider that we all have a very specific purpose, and we're all made uniquely different. Japanese potter years ago that was so accomplished in his craft of throwing pots, he specifically made sure that there was a flaw in every one. You may not be able to see, but he knew. But he knew every pot had a flaw in it. Every pot had a certain problem, impurity. And as a Christian, I understand, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Every one of us has a flaw, a spiritual flaw. But God doesn't point out the flaws. He likes us to become built up for his purpose. So we always ask ourselves, oh, what's your purpose? What does he need me for? Sometimes we're made by the hands of the potter. Not sometimes, all the time, to reflect him. To reflect his love. To be an image bearer. To serve others. Jesus eloquently said, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. So I'll finish this later. I think that we need to understand, and we all are in process. Yep, an old happy lump here. Hard little lump. A different body of clay than the one we see here on the other wheelhead. But hard nonetheless. They were both at one point hard. And as this one dries, it will turn this color. The other clay is a different body. But as it dries, it reveals things. And if it dries in a way that is inconsistent and it creates a stress, even when it dries, it reveals a crack. And this crack is so bad that this clay has to be turned back into a lump. Add water and it becomes something. And God can move us in the process of taking a crack, which the potter says, I can't fire this, because in the firing process, it changes color. That's the same clay. Different body of this clay. And in the firing, it will reveal even more impurities because it gets so hot. And sometimes, even in the firing, sometimes you get a crack. This one is good. And through the firing process and more drying, you then get it ready to receive a glaze. And that's what these are over here. They've been glazed. They've received another coating of glazed material and have been fired, making them useful vessels that I could put in the oven or the dishwasher or wash, hold water. Because if I pour water into any one of these, it will seep through. Do you remember the pot that was off the broken wheelhead? So that's what happened to this potter. Got transformed in the firing. Looks a lot different than what it did before. You're being poured out to serve. God doesn't just create vessels, you and I, for us to sit on the shelf. He pours himself into you. Each one of us has received the Spirit of God, and we can choose to take and pour that out to others, share it, give it to others. Or we can just stay up there on the shelf and dry out. Look pretty, but dry on the inside. I want to be filled with all that God has, even this pot that has impurities and they burnt out. Even this pot that maybe the glaze ran a little different. But I can still use it to be poured out into others. It's not what you look like. It's, are you willing to serve? Are you willing to be poured out to serve others? Just as Jesus did for you. He's calling us to be his children, to share his love. Because every time you pour out, he fills you up. So regardless of what sort of pot you see yourself as, when you ask yourself, what are you made for? Don't try and find some program or some job. I may be a pastor, but what I'm made for, and I may be a potter at times, but that's not what I'm made for. I'm made to love. I'm made to serve God. I'm made to bless his people. I've seen lots of pots, lots of clay in a few years that I have had on this earth. But nothing is so important as remembering that he made us to be vessels, to receive his love, to let his love pour out through us. I pray that you would take the message from the potter's house and be encouraged in your day. Every day to love others. see how far we can stretch and be stretched. And still maintain a good shape. Will the clay be able to take it? Can the potter nudge it forward? What do you want to be? What have you become? Essentially, what are you made for? When we first started, did you think this pot was to be a planter? Or a bowl? Well, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Thanks for joining with me.